Hello, you wonderful soul. We are living in extreme times, full of great changes and at a high speed. On one hand, it is the intense ascension energies that have been massively affecting us over the past 2 years. And on the other hand, the rapid development in our world where we are often challenged and can barely keep up. And it can quickly create a feeling of losing oneself, being disoriented, and being helplessly exposed to this dynamic. And what exactly is happening within you, which developmental processes are active, and how you can specifically deal with them, I will address here. It's a very exciting topic. Stay tuned. My name is Ralph Riedel, on the shamanic path for nearly 20 years, initiated in the traditions of the Incas and Blackfoot. To better understand the complexity of this topic, I would like to furthermore elaborate on it in greater detail. When we are born into this world, we are initially taught how to best adapt to it and learn from it and understand it better. Yes, we are taught that we need to adapt to the outside world in our lives, so development happens gradually from the outside in over time. And as children, we often still have a natural connection to our hearts and our core essence, to our dreams, wishes, and colorful hopes and aspirations. And it may be that over a long period of time, this behavior gets trained out of us more and more, and we become increasingly conditioned to be someone we truly are not, someone we never intended to be. And over the many years, we have learned to take on various different roles in our own lives that have been carefully conceived by others for us. And over the years, we are confronted with the expectations and demands of our environment, feeling even more compelled to take on these roles and responsibilities. This creates even more dependency. And if you are at a point now where you feel that your life is meaningless, you don't really know who you truly are, or you feel like you have lost yourself, or even that you have never truly lived as yourself, then this is very painful at first, but it is a big leap in your development. This is now indeed the call of your soul, for your soul is now truly ready to rediscover yourself piece by piece, so that in the next step you can live more and more of yourself outwardly. And this phase can also be interpreted as an awakening phase, where you become aware for the first time in your life that you have not truly lived as yourself. For some it is true, for others it is partly true. Now, I would like to invite you to go a little deeper. Maybe we were also taught that there is only one self-awareness, meaning an ego and nothing more, perhaps. And now you indeed discover the call of your soul or your higher self. And maybe you truly already have a latent feeling that there must be even more. And this call can indeed become even louder, even though you might still be holding on to your old life significantly. And it may be that if you have only been taught about the ego, your self-awareness, you believe that the name you carry, the title you have, the profession you practice, or all the roles you take on, that this is who you are. And if you are at this particular point in time now, currently there are two possibilities. The first option is to wait until your life completely and utterly falls apart and you have no choice but to take a new path, which means, in fact, living more and more true to yourself, step by step, gradually. Or the second option is to listen to the call of your heart or soul and then slowly and gradually realign yourself, getting to know yourself anew, piece by piece, bit by bit, step by step. This can naturally feel unfamiliar and new at first, maybe even strange. If you have only learned to listen to your mind until now and are now learning to listen more and more to your heart, to seek and find answers there that can lead you in a new direction, which can encompass far more than your mind could ever imagine. It is important to note that this process can be challenging and requires patience and practice. Over time, you will find that this new way of listening can open up possibilities and insights that were previously hidden. Because your heart already feels that there must be more, that you might also have a feeling inside you that you are living below your potential, that you could actually be destined for a greater or different life if you truly follow this call. And from a shamanic perspective, we are multidimensional beings at home on multiple levels simultaneously. And that means indeed in our higher self or soul consciousness, in our ego or self-consciousness, and also in fact actually in our subconscious. And our task now is, in essence, to connect these three levels in order to essentially realize ourselves and ultimately refine ourselves. And this is different and completely individual for each person. Yes. And the next thing is that many people don't know that our consciousness also evolves and that we can make developmental leaps in different phases of life, where our worldview and the values we want to live by can change. And especially when we transition from adulthood to the elder status in our lives. And this happens roughly, typically, and usually between the ages of approximately 49 and 56. Of course, there are indeed some variations, but this definitely gives you a rough idea so that if you find yourself in such a phase, you can better understand it. And during this time, it may be that we go through the dark night of the soul, which from a shamanic perspective is not quite accurately described. It should rather be called the dark night of the ego. This means that our old ego, our old self-consciousness gradually dissolves over time, and a new ego slowly forms in a gradual process and eventually takes shape. And this process can cause great fear for many because they don't know what's happening to them and they believe that something is wrong with them. But this is a completely normal process. And the specific and practical tip I can give you here is that if you find yourself in such a process or phase, don't resist it. Don't try to hold on to anything. Instead, learn to trust the process of change, trust your soul, that it can absolutely lead you to a higher and more profound consciousness, and consequently to a better and more fulfilling life than you might be able to imagine from your current perspective. Because we can all naturally and effortlessly handle these processes, but in our modern civilization, we haven't learned to deal with these different levels. Yes, what is common in many shamanic traditions is to let go of the ego. But if you have never let it go before, it is a very intense process. And I have experienced this process many times before. And each time, it becomes easier and easier for me to trust. And for this reason, there are various ceremonies in shamanism that can accompany or even accelerate this process. For example, the Vision Quest, which I myself have done in Canada. That means spending several days alone in the wilderness, naturally accompanied by shamans, until you receive your visions, dissolve your fears, and can better master your new direction and reflections. Or even with the Sweat Lodge, where you are intensely confronted with yourself and are forced to go through the process of letting go in order to be reborn afterward. Or also in South America, where they work a lot with plant medicine, specifically with ayahuasca ceremonies, which can significantly support this process, such as, yes, and many people wish for an event, like flipping a switch, and then everything is basically just switched over, and I can align my new life. But it is a process. It just takes longer. And this process of change can sometimes even last for years. And that's why I have specialized in these processes of change. Because change is often easier for many when it is carried out gradually in small steps that can be easily implemented in everyday life. And maybe it will help you to know that everything is completely normal with you. That you might be in a phase of significant change where it is perfectly normal to reorient yourself, for things to come up, for you to change without having to force it, without having to resist. That this is a normal, natural process. To illustrate this even better, I want to give you an image. Imagine you have left your old life behind, or it is currently dissolving. You have already left the shore of your old life, or feel like you are no longer part of that life, and find yourself in the middle of a huge suspension bridge. You look back at your old life and feel, indeed, you can truly perceive that you simply can't go back there anymore. And that is indeed the ancient world, which no longer fits you at all. It's like looking into a distant past, and now you stand on this bridge surrounded by fog, with even more uncertainty as to when you'll see other shore not yet in sight. This can create a feeling of helplessness, of being completely and utterly overwhelmed, or perhaps even despair, not knowing what to do next. And I can only tell you from my own personal experience, just take one single step after another so that you get closer and closer to the other side, and keep focusing on the next few very important and significant steps. Then the fog will gradually lift more and more, and you will increasingly see more and more of the other side of the suspension bridge. And that certainly takes time for your new ego to fully form. Those were my thoughts on this topic. And if you like this video, feel free to pass it on to others or share it. And if you want more insights or a glimpse into my daily routines, just follow me on Instagram. The link is below in the description. See you next time. Bye. Ciao. Goodbye.